Hey, welcome back. Hope you're doing well, and let's get straight into it. The concept of XRP taking a dominant role inside the United States financial system is no longer just an abstract theory or distant possibility. It has moved into the realm of active development, which means you need to pay attention right now, not later. What I'm pointing toward involves government legislation, regulatory frameworks, and banking corridors that are quietly being positioned, ready to flip a switch at any moment. It hasn't fully moved yet, but when XRP does activate, the structure of the American financial system will be fundamentally reshaped by it. Individuals with deep access are already referring to XRP as the next form of digital gold. Regulators are shifting their posture in a positive direction, and institutions are acting in ways that suggest they are aware of something extremely significant approaching. I'm going to explain exactly why this matters. By the end of this, you'll understand why XRP's moment is not some distant future event, but something unfolding right now. This is not a hypothetical timeline. This is happening today. That's why participation in XRP Insiders Elite is being emphasized so strongly, because those who intend to capitalize on a major financial transition need early awareness, structured thinking, and access to elite-level frameworks. Members receive priority XRP alerts, exposure to the mindset strategies used by generational wealth builders, and the operational tactics used by the top 1%. Every premium resource is accessible immediately through the description, including a discount using the code Millionaire. A pivotal shift is occurring at this exact point in time, and this is where it begins. XRP is on the verge of being recognized as digital gold, and the catalyst behind this shift was a newly introduced U.S. legislative measure that few believed would advance through the Senate. This is not speculation or rumor. Unlike social media narratives, there is an actual legislative pathway documented on Congress.gov that opens the door for XRP to fall under the CFTC's commodity classification. Consider what that implies. An asset that has endured years of legal conflict, misinformation, and targeted opposition is now being placed in the same legal category as gold, oil, corn, wheat, and other core commodities that sustain the American economy. This is how governments communicate intent. They signal where regulation is heading and where capital should feel safe. Once this classification becomes effective, the SEC security debate effectively collapses. A decade of uncertainty evaporates almost instantly. Financial institutions receive an unmistakable green light, exchanges confidently relist, payment networks integrate, and capital begins flowing at scale. Ripple didn't spend 10 years building regulatory relationships and banking integrations without purpose. They were preparing infrastructure for a liquidity event of historic proportions, laying the rails long before the public understood what was coming. The system resembles a completed puzzle missing only its final piece, and once that bill passes, everything aligns. That's why many now argue XRP isn't just another crypto asset, but a purpose-built digital commodity designed specifically for the U.S. financial system. This isn't hype, it's architecture. While public debate rages about bull and bear cycles, insiders like Jake Claver have openly stated uncomfortable truths. U.S. entities can already use XRP today. His comments weren't casual speculation. He laid out the logic clearly. Aside from Bitcoin, XRP currently offers unmatched transparency. In emergency scenarios involving liquidity stress, exchange instability, or systemic shock, authorities could theoretically deploy XRP behind the scenes through entities like the DTCC. That's not conjecture. Only individuals deeply embedded in enterprise infrastructure would even mention such a possibility. When Jake referenced the NASDAQ president confirming exploration of distributed ledger technology for stock settlement, it should have triggered alarms for anyone paying attention. Global exchanges handling trillions are evaluating blockchain settlement for efficiency, and Ripple already possesses the compliance, licensing, partnerships, and corridors required. Adoption by the U.S. isn't optional. Settlement systems will use whatever technology is fastest, cheapest, and legally viable, and XRP was engineered for exactly that purpose. Once institutional volume begins flowing, XRP stops behaving like a speculative asset. Volatility diminishes, liquidity deepens, and price stabilization occurs at levels far above today's range. This is why insiders discuss triple-digit valuations as structural outcomes rather than fantasies. Then came Ripple's RLUSD commercial, which wasn't marketing at all but a strategic signal. Ripple is entering programmable currency at enterprise scale. Stablecoins aren't theoretical anymore. Automated payroll, cross-border transfers during off hours, and real-time treasury settlement are operational realities. While competitors have failed repeatedly, Ripple launched an enterprise-grade, regulation-aligned stablecoin. Boston Consulting Group projects up to $3 trillion in stablecoins by 2030. and only issuers with infrastructure, transparency, and compliance will dominate. Ripple fits that profile perfectly. Momentum accelerated further when Turkey-based exchange Paribu acquired CoinMina, one of the most heavily regulated platforms in the Middle East. CoinMina holds licenses in Dubai and Bahrain, two of the strictest jurisdictions globally. Ripple is already a partner, and RLUSD is already integrated. Instantly, RLUSD gains a compliant corridor across a major fintech region. Ripple isn't targeting retail users. They're building financial infrastructure for governments and institutions. Corridors like Dubai to Bahrain are early steps toward global deployment. This is the infrastructure phase, where nothing appears to be happening publicly, but progress underneath is rapid. Then the US made an unexpected move. A Bitcoin-related bill appeared on Congress.gov. That doesn't happen casually. Large-scale classification efforts signal behind-the-scenes alignment. Regulatory clarity for Bitcoin spreads outward, and XRP stands among the few assets positioned to follow immediately. Executives are becoming increasingly vocal. The Exodus CEO publicly forecasting $200,000 Bitcoin by 2026 isn't reckless optimism. It's informed by regulatory trends, institutional demand, custody behavior, and capital flows. Gold's $18 trillion market cap compared to Bitcoin's $1.8 trillion frames the upside. But the timing matters. Rate cuts, stimulus discussions, and state-level Bitcoin reserves are policy signals that affect XRP as well. Once Bitcoin is legitimized nationally, institutions will require a complementary asset for interoperability and settlement. XRP checks every box. Bitcoin stores value. XRP moves it. These assets aren't rivals, they're components of the same system. Wall Street confirms this shift. Bitcoin ETFs have become BlackRock's fastest-growing product. Sovereign entities are accumulating Bitcoin. Vanguard, JP Morgan, Bank of America, and Charles Schwab are all repositioning. This only happens when a new financial era is forming. Once Bitcoin's institutional phase matures, capital rotates into compliant utility assets. XRP sits precisely in that lane. Add to this the Fed pausing tightening, preparing rate cuts, and forecasting 4% economic growth by 2026. Such projections imply stimulus, investment, and modernization. Stablecoins expand. Ripple opens corridors. Institutions accumulate. Everything converges. Ripple spent a decade preparing for this environment. They built before recognition arrived. The United States now realizes that controlling the settlement layer determines future dominance. Instead of building from scratch, the infrastructure already exists. Ripple's network is proven, compliant, and globally integrated. Governments don't want experimental systems, they want reliability. That's XRP. Full CBDCs aren't necessary. Regulated stablecoins are preferred. RLUSD integrates seamlessly into existing rails. This is how global settlement infrastructure is formed quietly. XRP is already live. Activation is merely regulatory clarity. When the switch flips, nothing needs rebuilding. This is the setup phase before activation. Macro, regulatory, and institutional forces are aligning. Capital rotation is underway. Bitcoin opens the door. XRP completes the system. Those who understand this positioning early will be best prepared. This isn't financial advice. It's recognition of structural change. The future financial system is being assembled piece by piece, and XRP sits at the center of that architecture.